Big day tomorrow on First Things First. Big guest, not only in stature, but in size as well. Shaquille O'Neal joining the show to discuss the Anthony Davis trade, the future of the Warriors, so much more. That's tomorrow morning right here on First Things First.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that, talking about the Lakers with Shaq.
All right, let's get back to this Anthony Davis trade. He's heading to the Lakers in exchange for a king's ransom. There were other teams interested in the services of the 26-year-old six-time All-Star, but not willing to give up nearly as much as the Lakers did. According to reports, the Boston Celtics refused to include Jason Tatum in a deal for Davis, and that was the difference there. Nick, what do you make of how Boston handled this?
The way they've handled all their transactions over the last decade, if they're not clearly, without question, with no equivocation, winning the trade, they're not going to make the trade. And that's a hard way to do business. They have cashed in with their assets one time since they got them from the Nets back in 2013. The Kyrie Irving trade, and that was a no-brainer. You're trading damaged goods in Isaiah Thomas that you know better than anyone how damaged those goods are, and one pick, so along with Jay Crowder and other relatively meaningless pieces. That's the only time. They had an opportunity to trade for Paul George. Nope. Chris Mannix tells us they had an opportunity to trade Jaylen Brown for Kawhi Leonard. Nope. And now they have an opportunity to trade Jason Tatum for Anthony Davis. Nope. Okay, that's fine. Good luck. Because what the Celtics now have, and this is a good test case for how overvalued assets can be, and this is something you've been hammering, see, how many, oh, these young players, he's going to be a top 10 player. Well, how many teams think their young guy is going to be a top 10 guy? If all of them were right, then we'd have 35 top 10 players in the league instead of the same top 10 over the last 5-6 years with one or two guys forcing their way in. Boston is now in no man's land, the place they never wanted to be. They'll be fine. They'll be good. They'll make the playoffs. They're not a championship contender. They're going to get nothing for Kyrie. They're not a free agent destination. And their most expensive guy on the roster, Gordon Hayward, we don't know if he will ever get back to All-Star form. That's the position they find themselves.
And they're in an Eastern Conference that right now they can't be excited. When you look at Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons there in Philadelphia, Giannis, and a lot of people will be wanting to play with Giannis. He'll be the MVP this year when they announce that later on this month. So where are the Celtics? A bunch of assets, a bunch of hope. And even after a couple years with Kyrie, what did they accomplish? To me, they did more damage than they did good, because now, how do they secure a big-time free agent? Kyrie was there. They had the opportunity to get him to stay. They were not able to win him over. Anthony Davis wasn't going to. He made it the reason why they couldn't trade not only the Tatum, he wasn't going to sign an extension there. So out of the big-time players, who's willing to go to Boston? That's one of the questions moving forward, too, that should be asked.
Were they more concerned that they could potentially get AD, but he wouldn't sign a long-term contract? Or do they have that much faith in Jason Tatum that he's going to turn into a guy who maybe is a top 10 player like Anthony Davis?
Well, if Anthony Davis, if Rich Paul in that Sports Illustrated article, instead of saying you can trade for him Boston, but it'll be for 1 year, if his quote was trade for him Boston, he'll sign there, then they would have included Jason Tatum. But the Thunder got no, they were told Paul George a rental. They still went in for it. The Raptors were told Kawhi Leonard's a rental. They still went in for it, won a damn title, and at least it's plausible they could keep him. But this is the MO of how Danny Ainge has run the Celtics. Publicly tell the whole world we're interested in a player, have the trade negotiations fall apart, and then leak to friendly media how you were this close. It's what they did with Kevin Love in 2014.
Right. And as far as this trade goes, they're trying to act as if, well, we would have Tatum. Well, we don't know.
Right.
Like, we don't know.
We don't know. And I was told this weekend that they potentially did include Tatum, but it was in a 1-for-1. No picks, no other players, no nothing else. And that deal is not going to get it done. But rinse, repeat. They almost traded for Kevin Love in 2014. They almost traded for Boogie Cousins in 2015 and 16. They almost traded for Blake Griffin in 2016. They almost traded for Paul George in 2017. And they almost traded for Jimmy Butler last year. And now Anthony Davis. We've been hearing about Anthony Davis since 3 years ago with the Celtics. They won't cash their chips in. And so they're not going to go broke, but they're also not going to hit the jackpot doing it this way.
All right, we did it lightly, but let's just look at this Celtics team now. If we assume that Kyrie is leaving, who do they have and how good can they really be?
I mean, they might be the fourth best team in the East. If you look at the Pacers were the fourth seed this year. Oladipo was out. What if they get D'Angelo Russell, put that backcourt, him and bring Oladipo back? There are problems. They're not talented enough. And those young players, how good are they going to be? Are they going to be, is Jaylen Brown going to be an all-star? I don't know about that. Tatum, I do believe at some point he'll be an all-star, but he's a few seasons away from being an all-star. So to me, they're in the middle of the pack right now. Even with all the assets they have, Gordon Hayward, you can't depend on him now.
And they don't know what's going to happen with Al Horford. Al Horford, who's been their most consistent player for 3 years, can opt out of his contract. That would give him cap space. But free agents don't sign in Boston. Gordon Hayward did in a very unique circumstance. His college coach was the head coach there. Terry Rozier is not happy. Terry Rozier, now maybe with Kyrie leaving, he'll want to stay, but he's a free agent. He's a restricted free agent, but he potentially can walk. We know Philly's in a better position. We know Milwaukee's in a better position.
Maybe not Toronto.
Toronto, if Kawhi...
Toronto's in a better situation because what we got, another 25 years? I mean, they won a championship that's bigger than the Raptors. It's for a whole country, and they made the move to get it done.
And by the way, Toronto also next year will have the player that I believe in the most of the young guys, Pascal Siakam. Like, and so even if Kawhi leaves, Toronto's in a similar position Boston is. They was a great young coach. This guy has actually proven it on a higher level than my guy Brad Stevens has. Then there's Indiana. Or Orlando, which was 20-8, the best record in the East, the final third of the season. They're coming. Like Boston, who's the best? The best player on Boston next year is what player in the league? The 38th best player in the league? The 43rd best player in the league? It's a tough putt for a team that's been selling us for years. We're this close.
And look at all the optics. There's more enthusiasm to people to potentially join the Knicks with Kevin Durant, because let's not forget, Kevin Durant's going to be in the East. And let's not forget about Brooklyn, who had a good season last year. And guys have a great deal of interest in joining the Nets.
Man, the Celtics are the worst. Coming
it's tough
up,
to make trades when Kevin McHale's on the other side of it.
Did the Lakers overpay for Anthony Davis? Did they overpay? Next on First Things First.
Those picks are kind of like that date with Danny Ainge Jenna was looking for. Gonna take that to the grave. I think his chest got tight this week.